मुर्द खुदा में रज़वी हो।
Allah Almighty, by His divine grace and by His mercy, has done great favor upon us, that He has granted us the gift of Imaan, the most valuable and the most precious thing that every true believer has is his Imaan. There is nothing more precious than your Imaan. Without Imaan, there is nothing. One who doesn't have Imaan, he has nothing in the dunya and he has no share in the hereafter as well. So, the most valuable and the most precious ni'mat that Allah has given us is our Iman. However, if we look around us, if we look at the global state of the Muslim Ummah right now, and if we look at our communities and our societies, we will notice that we are living in a time when some people think that they are infallible, and no harm can come to their deen or their iman. There is this misconception that we are at such a level now that no matter what we do, no problem. No harm can come to our deen, no harm can come to our iman. But they have forgotten something that is very, very important. Something that is extremely important. That Allah Almighty says in the Holy Quran, Inna shaytana lil insani aduwwum mubin. Allah is saying in the Holy Quran that beshak shaitan admi ka khula dushman hai. Allah is saying in the Holy Quran that indeed shaitan is man's manifest enemy. Shaitan is your open enemy. And shaitan being the open enemy, Shaitan has many plots and many plans and many ploys. And Shaitan's ultimate plan is to destroy the Iman of a believer. That is Shaitan's ultimate plan. First, Shaitan starts tackling you in the matters of Amal. First, Shaitan starts tackling people in the matters of Amal. A pious personality in Madinatul Munawwara once said that Shaitan first puts in your mind that you don't need to read your nafil. It's nafil, it's voluntary prayer. Then he puts in your mind you don't have to read anymore your sunnat ghair muakkada. Then he makes you lazy and tells you now you don't have to read your sunnah, just read your farz. He said, you know what that leads to? It leads to a man finally becoming a benamazi. In the end, the farz will go. And when that happens, then the man is open to such attack that his deen and his iman becomes ruined. So shaitan is the manifest enemy. And shaitan's plan, shaitan's master plan, is to destroy our iman. Is to harm the iman of a believer. That is what shaitan wants. Because shaitan knows that if you go with iman, even if it is equal to one mustard seed, even one speck of iman, Allah's most merciful and Allah's mercy will still shower upon you in the end. Even though you have to be punished in the fire of hell for what you did, but through the shafa'at of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam you will get freedom. So what he wants, you do not even leave with that one speck of iman. So he tries everything to harm the iman of a believer. This is shaitan's master plan. And shaitan's plan is to make us feel, when one of the easiest ways for shaitan to attack your iman and my iman, one of the easiest ways for shaitan to do this is he makes us feel that we have everything under control. He makes us feel that we have everything under control, nobody like me. I am very strong, I am very powerful, no one can tamper with my deen, nobody can tamper with my iman. This is a very dangerous ploy of shaitan. This is a very dangerous ploy of shaitan, and this makes a person heedless. It makes a person heedless, it makes him neglectful. About what? About the real danger and the real threats against his deen and his iman. That is shaitan's master plan. That he should make us heedless, he should make us neglectful about the matters relating to our iman. Because if the iman goes, how much namaz we read, how much zakat we give, whatever else we do, we thinking we have the iman. But shaitan has done something that has ruined it, taken it away. All those amal of no use. So shaitan makes a person neglectful, it makes him heedless, and it makes him think that nothing can happen to my deen. Have you not seen today what is happening? Look at it on a global level. You see Muslims sitting in joint gatherings with kuffar, in their so-called religious gatherings, sitting together in the name of unity. But this is destructive to the iman of a believer. This is destructive to the iman. There are those who are sitting in these joint gatherings with kuffar, in their so-called festivals and religious gatherings. And then on the other hand, we have those who say that we are believers. We are very staunch, but they are fearlessly sitting with bad mazhabs. They are sitting with deviants. And Allah knows all sorts of people. And why they are doing this? They think that they are very strong. Our iman is very strong, nothing can happen. Nobody can harm us. Nothing can happen. We are very robust. Our iman is very strong. Nothing can harm our deen. But they have forgotten that this heedlessness is very dangerous. Thinking that nothing can happen, thinking that nobody can harm my deen because I am very educated. I have a lot of knowledge about deen. I have this and I have that and I can protect my deen. I can protect my iman. This is shaitan playing us. Because as Muslims, we have always to fear and be aware of the threats against our iman. A Muslim must always be aware of that which is a threat against your deen. You must be aware of the threat which is against your iman, and thus you have to keep very far away from those people who are a threat to your iman. And those places which are a threat to your iman. You have to keep away from the people who are a threat to your iman, and you have to keep away from the places that are a threat to your iman as well. Why? Because these two things can be very detrimental to your iman if you slip there. And thus the pious servants of Allah have always warned us about the importance of protecting your iman and being fearful. Being fearful of your iman, being fearful of the threats against your iman. And the great scholars have said that a man thinks that his iman is very strong and none can sway him. And he thinks that sitting with kuffar and deviants, and especially the big problem today is sending your children to bad mazhabs. Learning from deviants and sending your children to deviants. They think it will not harm our iman in any way because iman is very robust. They say this is man's downfall, and that which will ultimately lead to his deen and his iman being ruined. Say the Ala Hazrat, Azimul Barakat, Imam Ahl Sunnat, Shah Imam Ahmad Raza Khan Fazli Barelvi Radhiyallahu Anhu says, he said, Najat munhasir hai is baat par, कि एक एक अकीदा अहले सुन्नत व जमात का ऐसा पुख्ता हो कि आसमान और ज़मीन टल जाए और वो न टले. आसमान और ज़मीन टल जाए और वो न टले, फिर उसके साथ हर वक्त खौफ लगा हो. फिर उसके साथ किसके साथ? ईमान के साथ. फिर उसके साथ हर वक्त खौफ लगा हो. And आला हज़रत अज़ीमुल बरकत then says, उलमा इकराम फरमाते हैं कि जिसको सल्ब ईमान का खौफ ना हो, जिसको सल्ब ईमान का खौफ ना हो, मरते वक्त उसका ईमान सल्ब हो जाएगा. मरते वक्त उसका ईमान सल्ब हो जाएगा. What does it mean? Ala Hazrat Azimul Barakat radiyallahu anhu is saying salvation depends on this. Salvation, najat in the hereafter, depends on this, that one should remain so firm upon every single aqidah, every single belief of the Ahl Sunnat wa Jamaat, that even if the skies and the earth were to shift, even if the skies and the earth were to shift, he should not flinch in the least. When it comes to his Iman, he should not flinch in the least when it comes to his Aqidah. And he says, together with this, one must remain in a constant state of fear for his Iman. He said, the noble ulama kiram have stated, what have they said? The one who does not fear the loss of Iman. The one who does not fear the loss of Iman, his Iman will be taken away at the time of his death. His Iman will be taken away on deathbed. This is something small. This is a very serious thing. What does it mean? Something to think about. Allah Akbar. This is about something that we should ponder. Think about it for one moment. Pay attention to what the Imam of the Ahl Sunnah say, the Ala Hazrat Adimul Barakat, is telling us. He's saying that we should be so staunch and so firm upon every one of the beliefs of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jamaat, that even if the sky and the earth have to slip and crumble, you shouldn't move. In other words, your Iman should not go this way, that way. Dagmangana nature. Why? Because if this happens, you are gone. I am gone. What does this mean? What is the message? It means no matter what happens, you should never compromise matters of Iman. You should never compromise your deen. You should never compromise your Iman. You should not move away 1 inch from that which is the Aqidah of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jamaat. And Allah Hazrat Adimul Barakat, after he told us that, what did he say? He says that we should always be in fear concerning the threat to our Iman. And he ends in saying what the ulama told. That person who doesn't fear his Iman, he doesn't fear loss to his Iman, then on his deathbed his Iman is going to go. On his deathbed his Iman is going to go. Now you tell me how dangerous it is to sit with the kuffar in their so-called religious gatherings. How dangerous it is to sit amongst bad mazhabs. Why? Because that Iman is such a valuable belonging that it needs to be protected from every threat. It needs to be protected from every threat. Now, let me give you a simple example. Long discussion, I'm being brief, and I'm being very calculated today on this discussion so you understand it very well. I'm being very measured and very clear. That, let's say a person has something that is very, very valuable. He has a diamond that is the most expensive diamond in the world, or some other gem. Will you find that person carrying that and walking into a crowded place all the time? Or will you find him isolating himself so he can protect that thing which he has with him? He'll isolate himself. He will leave his house very little because he's got something more valuable in the world than anything. He would rather stay in his house all the time rather than going every time to a mela or a marketplace where there are thousands of people. Because he fears that in a place like that there are thieves also. And that place will make me susceptible to attack. That when I go there, there is possible that somebody is going to pickpocket me. It is possible that somebody is going to take this valuable away from me. So because he wants to protect himself from that thing, he doesn't want, he must be at a position where he can be robbed. That valuable, that precious gemstone can't be taken away from him. He will not take any risks. Why is he doing this? Because he is fearful of the threats against that valuable thing. He is fearful of the threat against that valuable thing, that gemstone. Allahu Akbar. A man who has something of value like a diamond or a gemstone, he is always aware of the risks and the threats that are to his valuable property. What about the property that you have more valuable than that? Rather than property, but that possession which Allah has given you, that amana which Allah has given you, which is our Iman. How more fearful we have to be. How more fearful we have to be about the threats that are related to the Iman. But sadly, we're living in a time where this is taken very lightly. And that is why I'm discussing. It is very important for us to understand that those who sit with deviants, and in doing so encourage the laymen to do so, putting their Iman at risk, means they don't fear the threat to their own Iman and they don't fear the threat to your Iman as well. Why? Doesn't matter. As long as we get the dunya, this dunya is going to stay here. And when you are gone, it's not going to go with you. But there will come a time when the dunya will not remain. Nothing will remain. Everything will become fana. What benefit did it give us? What fayda did it give us? People like that crowd where man doesn't want to take his wealth. He doesn't want to take his precious things. But we're prepared to sit with this Iman in crowds of people that are enemies, those that will harm our deen. That is why Allah Hazrat said, Kufr munkar ye bara josh ta'assub akhir. Bhir mein haath se kambakht ka Iman gaya. This is how you lose your Iman in the crowd. You don't even realize it. Have you heard about what Sayyidina Umar Farooq said? Allahu Akbar. Hazrat Sayyidina Umar Farooq, that personality who is known as Ghayzul Munafiqin. Okay? That Umar Farooq, who everybody knew about his vigor. What can we say about his strength of Iman? What can we say about his ibadat? What can we say about his sincerity and devotion? Allahu Akbar. I want you to listen with the ears of your heart. Hazrat Umar Farooq says, if it were announced from the heavens, if it were announced from the skies, that except for one person, all the other people on the earth have been forgiven, that I will fear that indeed I am that one person who has not been forgiven. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. This is Umar Farooq. This is Umar Farooq. He's saying, had it been announced from the heavens that all the people on earth have been forgiven but one, I will fear that I am that one person. What does it mean? It means is how fearful they were about their deen. How fearful they were about their Iman. They didn't take lightly the commands of Allah and Allah's beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he says, if it were announced that all the people on the earth are condemned to hell except one person, then I will be hopeful that I alone am not that person who has been saved. Allahu Akbar. What is he talking about? He's trying to make us understand by this the value of our Iman. This is his humility. This is Umar Farooq's humility. But in reality, this is his fear in the court of Allah. A person is not fearful about the loss of his Iman because he forgets. He forgets something that is very important. And that is who you take ilm from. Who you sit with. If you look at the last narration in the Shama'il of Sayyidina Imam Tirmidhi radiallahu anhu, it is reported there in brief from Sayyidina Imam Ibn Siri radiallahu anhu. He said this hadith, these traditions, this ahadith mubarakah which we narrate is deen. This ahadith mubarakah which we narrate, what it is? It's deen. He said, so thoroughly investigate whom you are taking your deen from. Thoroughly investigate whom you are taking your deen from. Huzur Sayyidi Muhaddis Kabir, when he explains this narration, what did he say? He said this means that do not study under any Wahhabi, Khariji or Rafidi. Don't even study or sit in the company of any Bad Mazhab. He said, because you don't think that I am doing so because he is very famous. No, you don't do that. He said he learned from such a person who is a devoted follower of Rasulullah Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Somebody who is an ashik of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alaihi wasallam. And you know there is a hadith sharif, time is not permitting. Inshallah next week, if Allah wills, I'll discuss this further. But the beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and very beautiful narration of Bukhari, and I'm going to explain the same discussion from this hadith next week. I'm going to just read the translation of it to you, say the translation to you, and we'll continue next week. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that one who has three things in him will attain the sweetness of Iman. One who has three things, he will attain the sweetness of Iman. He said the first being that he will love Allah and his Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam above everything else. That's the first thing. He says the second thing is that if a person loves someone, then it should not be for a worldly reason, but it should be for the sake of Allah and his Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And thirdly, that he hates reverting towards the state of kufr after having been blessed with Iman, like he hates being thrown into a raging fire. Keep this narration in your mind, and we will inshallah discuss it next week with some detail, and how important it is further to protect this Iman of ours, and how we should fear all these threats towards our Iman. If we keep this in mind, then inshallah al-Aziz will be protected here and will be protected in the hereafter as well. Allah Ta'ala keep us with Iman. Let us leave this world with Iman.